Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good night and had a great week. For this week, my project, my video presentation is going to be on fluency. Fluency is one of the topics I've really enjoyed in my teaching career. Now, with this current year, with me doing more math and science, I don't necessarily get to focus on the fluency of reading as much. But whenever I can, I love to be able to point out fluency and how my students can improve their fluency um, throughout the year so that they are able to enjoy their reading experience more. So, what exactly is fluency? So, fluency is defined as the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. So, really, fluency comes up quite a bit when students are first learning to read, and even as they are adults and they continue to read, for example, with class like this. Not necessarily reading out loud per se, but as I'm reading in my head, making sure that I am addressing the fluency of my speed, making sure that I'm reading my words correctly, and that I'm doing the proper expression, even if it is inside of my head. And why is this fluency important? Well, fluency is important because it builds a bridge between word recognition and comprehension. Uh, the connection between these two, as you become a more fluent reader and are going through words that you recognize more, it allows you the opportunity to not have to focus so much on the word per se, but how is the word connected to the story or the reading? How is that going to help your comprehension and understanding of what it is that you're reading? And so that you're not focused so much on what's happening, how am I quickly or slowly am I reading? Where am I throughout this process? So, what is the goal of fluency? So, the goal of fluency is to allow students the time to focus on what the text is saying. So, as I was mentioning prior, this allows you to not necessarily have to focus on the words per se, but allows you to focus on the actual meaning, that bigger picture as you're going through your reading. They can make connections between what they're reading and their own background knowledge. So as you're going through and you're thinking about the word, you're not focusing so much on how the word is said or what the word could be, but how does that connect to what I already know? And how can I then use that to help me with my story and understanding what it is that I'm reading? So again, with them being able to connect their background knowledge, they can therefore concentrate on the comprehension and really understanding, excuse me, really understanding what is being said in that story, as opposed to really focusing strictly on the words that are being presented to you. So there are three components of fluency. The first one being accuracy. That's the one that I find when kids are first starting to read is the hardest part for them. We used for assessment when I was teaching reading, we used Fountas and Pinnell, and they did a really good job of as you were going through and tracking students' fluency. You did have to take into account the score for accuracy and how many of the words are these kids getting correct and how many of them are they just guessing or kind of looking at that word as this is what I think it could be and making that assumption to something that might be close. So accuracy is the ability to pronounce written words correctly as you're going through and you're reading a story or so a story is being read aloud. How many of those words are they getting correct? Or how many of them are they kind of guessing using a close connection or using something that may be similar? So of and off was a big one that I found with working with kids. A lot of kids would substitute those two when they would come across it. The and for the sounding of the two. That was another one that kids would substitute as they were reading. So making sure that those words are written and pronounced correctly. The next component of fluency is the rate, how fast or slow it takes someone to read. And again, that can be measured through WPM or words per minute. And there was a calculation with that Fontes and Pinnell that was used to kind of figure out how many words per minute a student was reading as they were going through their story. That fast or slow, I like to talk about when I work with my students, is that robot choppy reading. So as you're going through a story, you want that story to have a smooth feeling to it. You don't want it to be choppy. So as you're going through, how fast or slow it takes someone to read, when you have a situation like that, you can hear how that doesn't sound very comforting. And to be reading like that makes it very difficult to understand what the story is and what's being shared with you. So, really working on that smoothness. On the flip side of that, you don't want to read so quickly that you're unable to pick up what's going on. So, again, if I was to read the definition of rate, or how fast or slow it takes someone to read is measured in going through that fast pace, you're not going to be able to pick up as much because you're so focused on getting through everything so quickly, that comprehension piece is being lost because of that rapid fire. And then the last part, that component, I should say, excuse me, of the fluency is the prosody. And that's reading with expression or using the appropriate rhythm, tone, pitch, pauses, and stresses. So that means when there's a question mark, our voice is raising. What did he say? Or when there's a comma, a period, some punctuation, we're using that pause. We're using the right rhythm so that that smooth feeling as we're reading is taking place. There's that flow, and everything is working through itself. So those are the three components of fluency. The activity that I wanted to share is something that I've done more with the primary grades, and I have used with third grade students, but using those with students who are a little bit lower in their reading levels, after they've taken the iReady, or we've done some assessment and we've had an idea as to where they are grade level wise for their reading. I can use this activity, and it can be used in a way that it can focus strictly on primary, or it can be kind of ramped up so that you can use it with older grades if, again, you find that fluency is a difficult thing for that student. And this is called Beat the Timer. And all you need for this activity is a set of word cards, if that's where you find the struggle, or sentence strips with short phrases like at the house, in the car, see my friend, something like that. Or you can have sentence strips with long phrases where you can then take those and extend it to, I see my friend at the house. And the other item that you will need is a timer. And the way that you do this is you write the words on a note card or sentence strips. And when you flip over the timer, you want to see how many words that student can read before the timer runs out. So again, with the word cards or the shorter phrases, how many of those can we go through? So for example, if you have a stack of 20 cards, how quickly can your student get through those 20 cards? If we're going through short phrases with the sentence strips, how many of those can they go through? And then counting the words as they go through that. And then again, going through the longer strips. And then, as I mentioned, once your students have mastered all the words provided, inform them that they are going to be leveling up to short phrases, leveling up to long phrases, etc. I like to use level up as a way to let my kids know that there is an encouraging phrase. A lot of my kids like to play video games, and with those video games, when you're moving on to that next level, you're leveling up. Well, in this activity, when you move on to that next level, you're leveling up, which means that is a good thing. You should feel proud of your accomplishments. Now we're going to address that next part. And attached here or included here are the references that I used in order to do the research for this project. again, I really enjoy Fluency. I really enjoy working with Fluency. That was a big thing that, especially with my own kids, when they were learning to read and when they were practicing reading at home, we really pushed and made an emphasis on having that fluency because we wanted them to be able to understand the story. And so we took all of that and used it to help them, and I used it to help my students. So I hope you all enjoyed my presentation, and thank you so much for watching.